Elliot and Carla Warren's love story was one everyone around them believed in. But everything changed after the accident that left Elliot physically and mentally disabled. From that moment on, Carla presented herself as the loyal wife, fighting to hold her home together. She told everyone she was doing her best, and for years, no one had a reason to doubt her. But then, right inside that same house, something happened that no one saw coming. A moment that cracked their story wide open and exposed scandals so shocking they pulled everyone connected to them into a storm they never imagined. And in the middle of it all, someone paid the ultimate price. How did a marriage that once looked so perfect unravel into something this explosive? Keep watching to find out. Welcome to True Crime Story HQ. Thanks to all my viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay tuned for daily true crime updates. Don't forget to subscribe. Elliot Warren was 40 years old when his life changed forever. He was the kind of success story people wrote articles about. He had built a tech startup from absolutely nothing, working out of his garage with 2 college buddies and a dream that most people would have called crazy. 8 years later, that crazy dream was worth $500 million. But money wasn't what defined Elliot Warren. It was how he used it and how he treated people along the way. Elliot came from humble beginnings, and he never forgot it. His father, Robert, had worked as a postal worker for 35 years, delivering mail in rain, snow, and brutal summer heat. His mother, Margaret, had been an elementary school teacher, spending her days shaping young minds for a salary that barely covered the bills. They had given Elliot everything they could, which wasn't much in terms of money, but was everything in terms of love and values. The first thing Elliot did when his company went public was buy his parents a dream home in Florida. Not a mansion, just a comfortable 3-bedroom house with a porch where his mother could drink her morning coffee and watch the sunrise. He visited them every single month, no matter how busy his schedule got. His business success opened doors to real estate investment, and Elliot built a portfolio across 3 states. He had the kind of mind that saw opportunities where others saw risk. But unlike many wealthy men, Elliot never stepped on anyone to get ahead. His employees loved him because he actually knew their names. He walked the factory floor every week, asking about their families, remembering their kids' birthdays. When one of his warehouse managers got diagnosed with cancer, Elliot paid for the entire treatment out of his own pocket. When another employee's house burned down, Elliot bought them a new one. People didn't work for Elliot Warren because they had to. They worked for him because they wanted to. Every year, Elliot put $2 million into a scholarship fund for underprivileged students. Kids who came from backgrounds just like his. Kids who had the brains and the drive, but not the bank account. He had helped 15 young entrepreneurs get their businesses off the ground, mentoring them through the hard parts, celebrating with them through the wins. 7 of those 15 were now running successful companies of their own. Elliot's philosophy was simple, and he said it often. Success means nothing if you're alone at the top. He meant it. His downtown penthouse told you everything you needed to know about his priorities. The walls weren't covered with awards or magazine covers featuring his face. They were covered with photos of the people he loved. His parents on their porch, his college buddies at their annual fishing trip, his goddaughters and godsons blowing out birthday candles. He was godfather to 4 children, and he took that role seriously. He showed up for soccer games and school plays. He remembered every single birthday. Despite having more money than most people would see in 10 lifetimes, Elliot drove a Toyota and wore jeans to the office. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Elliot had a tight circle of friends from college who had stuck with him for 20 years. These weren't the kind of friends who stuck around because of money. They stuck around because Elliot was the kind of man who stopped to help strangers with flat tires, the kind who remembered what it felt like to struggle and never wanted to see anyone else go through it alone. Sunday dinners at his parents' house were non-negotiable. Elliot blocked out that time every single week. He sat at the same kitchen table where he had done his homework as a kid, eating his mother's cooking and listening to his father's stories. These dinners grounded him. They reminded him who he was before the money, before the success, before everything changed. His parents were proud of him, not because he was rich, but because he was good, because he had stayed humble, because he still called his mother every morning just to check in. This was Elliot Warren, a self-made multimillionaire who had never forgotten where he came from. A devoted father who built tree houses and coached soccer. A loyal friend who showed up for basketball games and fishing trips. A generous philanthropist who believed success meant lifting others up. A loving son who called his mother every morning and never missed Sunday dinner. A man who trusted completely, loved deeply, and believed in the goodness of people. He had everything. Absolutely everything. And he was about to lose it all in the cruelest way imaginable. Carla Bennett didn't grow up poor, but she didn't grow up rich either. Her childhood home was in a modest middle-class suburb outside Detroit. Her father worked as an accountant, crunching numbers for a small firm. Her mother was a dental hygienist, cleaning teeth and taking x-rays 5 days a week. They had a comfortable life. The bills got paid. There was food on the table. But there was never anything extra. Nothing was handed to Carla. Everything she got, she had to work for or go without. From a very young age, Carla was aware of the social hierarchy around her. She attended public school, where some kids showed up in expensive clothes while she wore hand-me-downs from cousins. She watched wealthy classmates get new cars for their 16th birthdays while she took the bus. They talked about family vacations to Europe and the Caribbean. Carla's family went camping 2 hours away if they went anywhere at all. She became obsessed with things she couldn't have. Luxury brands, designer handbags, the kind of life she saw in magazines and on society pages. While other girls her age were thinking about homework and boys, Carla was studying celebrity lifestyles and planning how to get them. In high school, Carla started lying. She told elaborate stories about vacations her family never took. She pretended her father was a senior executive instead of a mid-level accountant. She created an entire fictional version of her life because the real one embarrassed her. She was good at it. People believed her because she committed to the lies completely. She learned early that if you said something with enough confidence, people rarely questioned it. This skill would serve her well later in life. College was supposed to be her ticket out. She went to State University on a partial scholarship. The rest she had to cover with student loans and 3 part-time jobs. She worked herself to exhaustion, resenting every single minute of it. She watched wealthy sorority girls breeze through college without working a day. They spent their daddy's money freely on clothes, parties, trips. Everything came easy to them. Everything was hard for Carla. She majored in psychology, not because she cared about helping people, but because she wanted to understand how to control them. Junior year changed everything. Carla started dating Preston Whitmore III. He was everything she had ever dreamed about. Heir to a pharmaceutical fortune, old money, country club membership, the kind of last name that opened doors. For 8 months, Carla played the role of perfect girlfriend. She laughed at all his jokes. She dressed the way his friends' girlfriends dressed. She pretended to love sailing and golf and all the boring activities rich people seem to enjoy. She was sure this was it. This was her way into the life she deserved. Then came Thanksgiving. Preston invited her to meet his family at their estate. Carla knew this was important. She bought a new dress she couldn't afford. She practiced her manners. She was ready to impress them. But from the moment she walked in, she felt their judgment. Preston's mother looked her up and down with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "She's lovely, dear," his mother said to Preston. "But is she really our kind?" Carla pretended not to hear. Later that night, she overheard Preston's father talking to him in the study. "Son, have your fun, but marry within your circle." The message was clear. Carla wasn't good enough. She would never be good enough. Preston broke up with her right before Christmas. He did it via text message. "My family thinks we're not compatible long term. You understand?" Just like that. 8 months erased with a text. Carla was devastated, but what came next destroyed something inside her permanently. Within days, Preston started dating a blonde debutante from Connecticut. Someone from his world. Someone his family approved of. 6 months later, Carla saw their engagement announcement in the newspaper. They looked perfect together. Preston had moved on like Carla never existed. Something broke inside Carla that day. She made herself a promise. I'll never be discarded again. Next time, I'll be the one in control. Next time, I'll be untouchable. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about power. About revenge against every person who had ever made her feel less than. Every wealthy person who had looked down on her. Every man who had used her and thrown her away. She would find a way into their world, and once she was in, she would take everything she could. After college, Carla moved to a major city and found work in event planning. She was good at her job. She knew how to make wealthy people happy, how to anticipate what they wanted before they asked. But being good at her job meant serving them, and that made her feel beneath them. She watched rich clients at their worst. They were entitled, demanding, careless with money because they had so much of it. She grew to despise them while desperately wanting to be one of them. The contradiction ate at her constantly. Carla dated a string of wealthy men over the next several years. Each time she tried to become indispensable, she learned their habits. She became exactly what they wanted. But each time the same thing happened. They used her for a while, then replaced her with someone better, someone from their own social class. The pattern repeated over and over, used, then discarded. It reinforced her core belief. Rich people see everyone else as disposable. By the time she turned 32, Carla was hardened. She was running out of time. Her biological clock was ticking. Her looks wouldn't last forever. She needed a permanent solution to her money problem. Elliot met Carla at a charity gala benefiting a children's hospital. She was working as an event coordinator for the planning company that organized the event. Elliot noticed her immediately. She was stunning, but it wasn't just her looks. She was charming and attentive in a way that made him feel truly seen. They talked for hours that night about everything and nothing. She laughed at his jokes. She asked about his work with genuine interest. She seemed to care about the same causes he did. Their romance moved fast. 6 months of adventure and laughter. Carla introduced him to things he had never experienced. Art galleries, theater performances, fine dining restaurants where the menu didn't have prices. Elliot introduced her to his world, his family, his friends, his business. She fit in, everywhere. His parents welcomed her warmly. His friends liked her. Everything seemed perfect. He proposed at the beach where his parents had honeymooned. When she said yes, Elliot felt like the luckiest man alive. The wedding was everything a wedding should be. 300 guests, covered by the society pages, looking exactly like a fairy tale come to life. They honeymooned in Bali for 3 weeks. The photos from that trip showed 2 people who looked genuinely happy, genuinely in love. When they returned, everyone said the same thing. Elliot found his perfect match. The first 2 years of marriage seemed to confirm it. Carla accompanied him to business events, always by his side, always smiling. She volunteered alongside him at charity functions. She seemed to embrace everything about his life, including his commitment to giving back. His lawyer had pushed hard for a prenuptial agreement. Elliot refused. "When you marry someone, you trust them completely," he said. "That's what marriage means." It was classic Elliot Warren. Trusting, optimistic, believing the best in people. No one saw any red flags. Not his parents, not his friends, not even Elliot himself. Carla seemed devoted. She seemed genuine. She seemed like exactly who she presented herself to be. 2 years into the marriage, Carla gave birth to twin daughters. Emma and Lily Warren became Elliot's world. He called them "my little miracles," and he meant it with every fiber of his being. The girls were completely adored their father. Elliot coached their soccer team every Saturday morning. He read them bedtime stories every single night, doing different voices for each character. He had built an elaborate treehouse in their backyard with his own hands, spending 3 weekends measuring, hammering, and making it perfect. The girls would tell anyone who listened, "Daddy's our hero." Carla's pregnancy had been difficult and required months of bed rest. Elliot hired full-time help immediately. He rearranged his entire work schedule to be present, to make sure she had everything she needed. When the girls were born premature and had to stay in the NICU for 2 weeks, Elliot barely left the hospital. From the outside, They looked like the perfect family unit. A successful father, a beautiful mother, 2 healthy daughters, the American dream in living color. 2 years into the marriage, Carla attended a fundraiser. She saw Preston Whitmore across the room with his wife, the Connecticut debutante. They looked perfect, happy, wealthy, secure, everything Carla had wanted. She walked up to Preston, expecting some kind of recognition, maybe an apology, maybe acknowledgement of the pain he had caused. Instead, Preston looked at her blankly. "Oh, hi," he said. "Sorry, what was your name again?" He didn't even remember her. 8 months of her life, the heartbreak that had shaped everything she became, and he didn't even remember her name. Something inside Carla snapped permanently that night. She went home and looked at Elliot sleeping beside her. In her twisted mind, Elliot became every man who had ever discarded her, every wealthy person who had ever looked down on her, every Preston Whitmore who had ever made her feel worthless. She started seeing Elliot not as her husband, but as a symbol of everyone she hated. His kindness felt like condescension. His generosity felt like payment for services. His love felt like pity. The rage that had been building for years finally found a target. And that target was the one person who had never actually hurt her. This was Carla Warren, a woman who had been rejected, used, and discarded so many times that she couldn't recognize genuine love when it was right in front of her. A woman whose pain had turned into something dark and dangerous. A woman who was about to do unthinkable things, not because Elliot deserved it, but because Preston Whitmore had broken something inside her years ago that never healed. Some people are born cruel. Others are made cruel by the world. Carla was both, and Elliot Warren, the kind man who had given her everything, was about to pay the price for crimes he never committed. March 15, 2019, started like any normal day for Elliot Warren. He woke up early and went to the gym like he did every morning. He had no idea that his wife had already left the house with a plan to end his life. While Elliot was on the treadmill, Carla was driving to his office building parking garage. Security cameras later showed her BMW entering at 6:47 a.m. She parked 3 spots away from Elliot's car. She was carrying a large purse that contained wire cutters, gloves, and a flashlight. She had come prepared. Carla spent 11 minutes under Elliot's vehicle. She cut his brake line 3/4 of the way through. Not all the way. That would have been too obvious. She cut it just enough that it would hold for normal city driving, but fail completely at highway speeds. A mechanic would later testify that this was professional-level sabotage. Carla had researched this. She had watched videos. She had planned every detail. The brake line would drain slowly at first, then fail catastrophically when Elliot needed it most. By 6:58 a.m., Carla was driving away. Elliot arrived at his office at 7:15 a.m. and never noticed anything wrong with his car. That evening, Elliot had a late meeting with investors from Tokyo. It went better than he could have hoped. They sealed a major deal that would take his company to the next level. At 9:30 p.m., Elliot texted Carla, "Heading home. Big news. Love you." Carla read the message. She didn't respond. She was at a hotel with a lover. She deleted Elliot's text and went back to what she was doing. Her husband was driving home to tell her good news, and she was in bed with another man. This was who Carla had become. The drive home was 35 minutes on a familiar highway route. Traffic was light for that time of night. Elliot was probably thinking about the deal. Maybe planning how to celebrate. Maybe thinking about his daughters and how this success would secure their future. For the first 15 minutes, everything seemed normal. The brake line was holding. Elliot was driving at highway speeds, somewhere between 65 and 70 miles per hour. Then at mile marker 47, the brake pedal went soft under his foot. Elliot noticed immediately. He pumped the brakes, trying to build pressure. The brake fluid was draining fast. He could feel it. He tried to slow down gradually, but the brakes were failing. By mile marker 51, they failed completely. There was nothing. No resistance. No stopping power. Nothing. Elliot was approaching a sharp curve with a steep embankment. He tried the emergency brake, but at that speed, it couldn't compensate. The vehicle couldn't make the turn. At 68 miles per hour, Elliot crashed through the guardrail. The car rolled 3 times down the embankment, metal crunching, glass shattering. Elliot's body thrown against the seatbelt with brutal force. The final impact was against a concrete drainage culvert. The vehicle was completely destroyed. Elliot was unconscious, trapped in the wreckage. This was a remote section of highway. There were no witnesses. No one saw it happen. Elliot lay there in the dark, bleeding and broken, for 4 hours before anyone found him. A truck driver finally spotted the wreckage at 1:43 a.m. He called 911 immediately. "I need an ambulance. Bad accident. The victim isn't moving." When paramedics arrived, they found Elliot barely alive. He had massive head trauma. His spine was broken. He was bleeding internally from multiple organ damage. They called for an emergency airlift to the regional trauma center. The paramedics gave him a 20% chance of survival. One of them said out loud what they were all thinking. If he lives, expect severe permanent damage. Elliot's parents were notified at 3:15 a.m. Robert and Margaret rushed to the hospital in complete terror, calling each other over and over asking the same question. Is our son alive? Carla was notified at 3:22 a.m. She arrived at the hospital at 5:40 a.m., more than 2 hours later. Her explanation was simple. I was sleeping. My phone was charging in the other room. The reality was different. She had been at a hotel and needed time to create an alibi. She needed to get home, shower, change, and make it look like she had been there all along. Margaret noticed something strange when Carla arrived. "You're wearing makeup," she said. "At 5 a.m.? Carla had an answer ready. "I wanted to look strong for Elliot," she said with tears in her eyes. It was a good performance. Margaret felt guilty for even questioning it. But the truth was, Carla had put on makeup because she was about to play the role of grieving wife, and she wanted to look the part. She had just tried to murder her husband, and now she had to convince everyone she was devastated by what happened to him. Elliot went into emergency surgery that lasted 7 hours. 3 neurosurgeons and 2 orthopedic specialists worked on him. They had to relieve the swelling in his brain by temporarily removing a portion of his skull. His spine needed stabilization because vertebrae L3 and L4 were crushed. They repaired his ruptured spleen, his damaged kidney, and a liver laceration. When the surgery was over, they induced a medical coma. His brain needed time to heal. The prognosis was grim. The doctors told the family to prepare for the worst. For 3 weeks, Elliot remained in a coma. His parents maintained a constant bedside vigil. Margaret held his hand for 18 hours a day. Robert researched every possible treatment, reading medical journals and calling specialists across the country. Friends came to visit. Carla appeared daily, but she only stayed for 30 minutes. Just long enough to take photos that she posted on social media. Her posts were perfect. Standing by my warrior husband. Pray for Elliot. True love. The photos showed her holding his hand, looking exhausted and worried. She received thousands of sympathetic comments. People called her an angel. They praised her devotion. Behind the scenes, Carla was meeting with estate lawyers to ask about inheritance. She asked Elliot's neurologist a question that disturbed him deeply. If he stays like this, what happens to his assets? The doctor couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Ma'am, your husband is fighting for his life." Carla responded without emotion. "I'm just being practical. Someone has to be." On day 22, Elliot's eyes opened. His parents were overjoyed. "He's back!" Margaret cried. "Our boy is back!" But their joy was short-lived. The lead neurologist, Dr. Sarah Patel, called a family meeting to explain Elliot's condition. The diagnosis was devastating. Elliot had suffered a traumatic brain injury with frontal lobe damage that affected his speech and motor planning. He had aphasia, which meant he knew what he wanted to say but couldn't form the words properly. He had dysarthria, which meant the muscle control needed for speech was severely impaired. His spinal cord injury caused partial paralysis. His lower body had minimal function. Dr. Patel explained what this meant for Elliot's future. He would require permanent wheelchair use. His cognitive function was intact, which meant he understood everything, but he couldn't respond normally. Physical therapy might help him regain 10 to 15% of additional function. Speech therapy might help him achieve basic words, but he would never speak in full sentences again. Any improvements would take years if they occurred at all. Prepare for this to be his permanent state, Dr. Patel told them. The man who had walked into that meeting was gone. This was who Elliot Warren would be for the rest of his life. Elliot was fully conscious and fully aware of what had happened to him. He was trapped inside a body that wouldn't obey his mind. He tried to speak, but only garbled sounds came out. He tried to move his legs, but they barely twitched. His arms had limited movement and a weak grip. He had no fine motor control. They had to feed him through a tube initially. Later, they moved him to soft foods, but he was at constant risk of choking. He could breathe independently, but it was labored. He had no control over his bodily functions and required full care for everything. His mind screamed in frustration and rage, but his body wouldn't obey. When people looked at Elliot, he saw pity in their eyes. It was unbearable. He didn't want their pity. He wanted his life back. But when he looked at Carla, he saw something different. He saw her eyes doing calculations. She would touch his hand and smile at him, but there was something cold behind her eyes. Something that made him uneasy even in his confused state. He couldn't have known then what she had done. He couldn't have imagined that the accident wasn't an accident at all. But some part of him sensed that something was wrong. The state police examined the wreckage. The brake failure was obvious. There was no brake pad material left. Their initial assessment was mechanical failure, possibly related to poor maintenance. But when they interviewed Elliot's mechanic, he told them the vehicle had been serviced 3 weeks ago and the brakes were perfect. When investigators examined the brake line more closely, they saw a clean cut. Detective Lionel looked at it and said out loud, "This doesn't look right." He requested a forensic analysis. The forensic report came back with concerning findings. The damage was consistent with tool marks and indicated possible sabotage. Detective Lionel interviewed Carla at the hospital. "Who would want to hurt your husband?" he asked. Carla cried on cue. She seemed shocked. "Everyone loved Elliot," she insisted. The detective asked if Elliot had any enemies. "None that I know of," Carla said. He asked about financial problems. "We're comfortable. No issues." He asked about marital problems. "We're very happy," she said, reaching for tissues. It was another perfect performance. Detective Lionel wanted to pursue the sabotage angle, but he kept hitting dead ends. There were no obvious suspects. The motive wasn't clear. Security footage from the parking garage was reviewed, but not closely enough. The investigator didn't look back far enough to see Carla's visit that morning. The case remained open, but eventually went cold. It was classified as suspected sabotage, no actionable leads. Detective Lionel made one final note in the file before closing it. Something wrong here. Wife too calm. He didn't know how right he was. 8 weeks after the accident, Elliot was released from the hospital to home care. The house had to be modified with ramps, widened doorways, and a hospital bed set up in the first-floor study. Medical equipment filled the rooms. A wheelchair, a lift system, monitors. Elliot's parents wanted him to stay with them. They had the space. They had the time. But Carla insisted that wasn't necessary. "He needs to be in his own home," she said firmly. "I'll take care of him." Margaret hesitated. "Are you sure? This is an enormous responsibility." Carla looked at her with tears in her eyes. "He's my husband, for better or worse. I made a vow." Robert promised they would visit constantly. "You're not alone in this," he told Carla. "I appreciate that," she said. "We'll get through this together." It was an Oscar-worthy performance, and they believed every word. In one night, Elliot Warren went from having everything to having nothing. His business, his independence, his mobility, his voice, all of it was gone. But he still had his mind. He was fully aware of everything he had lost. He understood every word spoken around him. He felt every emotion, and that might have been the cruelest part of all. He was trapped inside a broken body with a mind that worked perfectly. A prisoner in his own life. And the warden was the woman who had put him there. Emma and Lily Warren were 4 years old when their father's life changed forever. Before the accident, they knew their daddy as strong, playful, and always ready for adventure. He was the one who built their treehouse, coached their soccer team, and did funny voices during bedtime stories. After the accident, everything was different and confusing. Hospital visits were restricted because doctors said it would be too traumatic for young children to see their father in that condition. The family's nanny Sarah brought them once to see Elliot while he was in a coma. The girls cried the entire time. They didn't understand why Daddy wouldn't wake up, or why he had so many tubes and machines attached to him. Margaret made the decision right then. We need to protect them from this. During the 3rd week of Elliot's coma, Carla called a family meeting with Robert and Margaret. She looked exhausted and overwhelmed, exactly the way a worried wife should look. The girls need stability, Carla said. They can't see him like this. It's too much for them. She proposed that Emma and Lily stay with Elliot's parents temporarily. Just until he's more recovered. Until he looks more like himself, she explained. Robert and Margaret agreed immediately. It seemed like motherly protection. It seemed like Carla was putting her daughter's well-being first. We'll keep them safe until Elliot's better, Margaret promised. Carla nodded gratefully. I'll visit every weekend. I just need to focus on his recovery right now. But Carla's real reasons had nothing to do with protecting her daughters. She wanted the children out of the house because she was planning to bring lovers home. 4-year-olds might not fully understand what they were seeing, but they would remember. They would tell their grandparents what was happening. Carla also knew it would be easier to abuse Elliot without witnesses who could talk. Children ask questions. Children notice things. Children get in the way. Carla didn't want any of that. She wanted freedom to do whatever she wanted without little eyes watching. The temporary arrangement became permanent very quickly. The first weekend after Emma and Lily moved in with their grandparents, Carla didn't visit. Her excuse was that Elliot had a medical emergency and she couldn't leave him. The second weekend, she showed up for 1 hour, distracted and on her phone the entire time. The third weekend, she didn't show up at all. She sent a text message instead. Overwhelmed with Elliot's care. You understand. A pattern was established. Monthly visits became the new standard. The girls asked every single day, "When's Mommy coming?" Margaret's heart broke every time. "Soon, sweethearts," she would say. "She's taking care of Daddy." Robert and Margaret stepped fully into the parent role. They enrolled the girls in preschool near their Florida home. They created routines that gave Emma and Lily stability. Breakfast together every morning, trips to the playground, bedtime stories with different voices for each character, just like their daddy used to do. The girls adjusted to their new life faster than anyone expected. They stopped asking for their mother as frequently. A close bond formed between grandparents and granddaughters. Biology made Carla their mother, but love made Robert and Margaret their true parents. Carla used her daughters as props when it was convenient. When friends came to visit and she needed to look like a devoted mother, she would drive to Florida, pick up Emma and Lily, and bring them to the house for a few hours. "See?" she would say to her friends. "I'm managing everything. The girls, Elliot, the household." She would take photos with the twins and post them on social media with hashtags like Mommy-Daughter Time and Family Strong. The reality was that these visits lasted 2 or 3 hours maximum. Then Carla would drive the girls back to their grandparents and return to her real life. "They're better off there," she would tell people. "More space to play." By month 4, Margaret started feeling that something was deeply wrong. "What kind of mother abandons her children like this?" she asked Robert one night. "I know she's overwhelmed, but those babies need their mother." Robert tried to give Carla the benefit of the doubt. "Her husband is disabled," he said. "She's drowning. We need to give her grace." But Margaret couldn't shake the feeling. "Those babies need their mother," she repeated. "And I think Elliot needs better care than what he's getting." They decided to make an unannounced visit to see the situation firsthand. In month 5, Robert and Margaret drove 8 hours from Florida to surprise Carla. They called from the driveway. "We're here! Surprise!" On the other end of the phone, Carla panicked. She had a lover in the house. The place was a mess. She couldn't let them inside. "Oh, you can't come in," Carla said, frantically. "Elliot's having a really bad day. He's very sick. We're actually heading to the hospital right now. I'll call you later." Margaret was immediately suspicious. "Let us help," she insisted. "That's why we're here." But Carla wouldn't budge. "No, too many people will stress him out. Please, just go." She turned them away at the door. In the car driving back to Florida, Margaret was angry and confused. "Something is very wrong," she told Robert. "I can feel it." Robert was more hesitant to judge. "Let's give her the benefit of the doubt," he said. "She's under enormous pressure." But Margaret couldn't let it go. She knew something wasn't right, even if she couldn't prove it yet. Elliot missed his daughters with an ache that was almost physical. He had photos of Emma and Lily everywhere in his sightline. He wanted to hug them, play with them, be their father again. But he couldn't move. He couldn't speak clearly. He couldn't do anything except look at their pictures and remember what it felt like to be their daddy. Carla used his longing as a weapon. "The girls are fine without you," she would tell him. "They barely ask about you anymore." She said it to hurt him, and it worked. "They prefer their grandparents now," she added. "You're just a sad memory to them." Every word was a lie. The truth was that Emma and Lily asked about their daddy every single day. Carla didn't just destroy her husband, she abandoned her children. She proved that some women have the biology to create life, but not the heart to nurture it. Emma and Lily were collateral damage in Carla's plan. They were inconvenient witnesses who needed to be removed. Elena Wright was 47 years old when she answered Carla Warren's job posting for a live-in caregiver. She was an African immigrant who had been widowed 5 years earlier. Elena had been working in elder care and disability support for 22 years, and her references were impeccable. Previous clients and their families praised her endlessly. One woman wrote, "Elena treated my father like family. She gave him dignity when his own body had taken it away." Elena spoke English well with just a slight accent. She was professional, compassionate, and experienced. She was also vulnerable in a way that Carla Warren noticed immediately. Elena's work visa was tied to her employment. If she lost her job, she would be deported back to her home country. Carla had researched several caregivers before choosing Elena, and she chose her specifically because of this vulnerability. The visa status made Elena controllable. During the interview at the house, Elliot was present in his wheelchair. Elena looked at him and saw kind eyes filled with sadness. She felt immediate compassion for this man who had clearly suffered something terrible. Carla gave her instructions that sounded reasonable on the surface. "My husband needs full care. I'll supervise everything." She promised good wages, $800 weekly, plus room and board. Elena accepted. She needed the work, and she genuinely felt compassion for Elliot. The first week seemed normal enough. Carla acted loving when Elena was present. She would touch Elliot's shoulder gently and say things like, "Make sure he's comfortable. He's my whole world." But the tone changed quickly when Carla was alone with Elena. On day 4, Carla gave an instruction that confused Elena. "Don't feed him if I say wait. I control his schedule." Elena was confused. "But the nutritionist said he needs 4 meals daily," she replied. Carla's voice turned sharp and cold. "I said what I said. Remember who pays you." It was the first warning sign. That night, Elena started a journal in her bedroom. Some instinct told her to document everything. Elena kept detailed notes from the very beginning. She wrote down dates, times, incidents, and conversations. She hid the journal in a locked drawer in her bedroom. She wrote everything in Tagalog, her native language, to protect her privacy. She didn't know then that this journal would later become crucial evidence in a criminal trial. She just knew that something felt wrong, and she needed to keep a record of it. By month 2, Carla's instructions became openly cruel. One afternoon, she told Elena, "He doesn't need lunch today. He made me angry." Elena protested. "He needs proper nutrition, ma'am. He's already lost so much weight." Carla turned on her with fury. "Are you questioning me? You're just the help." Then came the first direct threat. "Remember, I can call immigration anytime I want. One phone call and you're gone." Elena was terrified, but she stayed. She needed this job desperately. She had no other options. When one of her lovers arrived, Carla introduced him as a family friend helping with Elliot's care. He was a wealthy businessman in an expensive suit. Elena knew better. She saw how they looked at each other. She heard them in the bedroom while Elliot sat in his wheelchair in the living room. When Elena walked past Elliot, she saw his face. Pure anguish. Tears streaming down his cheeks. Elena wanted to comfort him, but Carla had forbidden it. "Leave him alone. He's fine," Carla had said that morning. So Elena walked past, her heart breaking for this man who couldn't even speak to tell anyone what was being done to him. The parade of men became a regular occurrence. Different men arrived weekly, sometimes twice a week. Some stayed overnight, and Carla was brazen about it. Elena was forced to serve them breakfast the next morning while Elliot sat nearby. The men were often cruel. They made jokes about Elliot right in front of him. "What's it like being married to a vegetable?" one asked Carla while laughing. Carla laughed right along with him. "He's basically furniture now," she said. Elena documented every visitor in her journal. Names when she knew them, dates, physical descriptions, everything she could remember. The worst night happened in month 3. Carla brought a man into Elliot's modified bedroom. Elliot was sleeping in his hospital bed when he woke to the sounds of his wife with a stranger in the same room. Elena heard his crying from her quarters down the hall. She found him shaking, tears soaking his pillow. Carla and the man were too drunk to notice or care. Elena held Elliot's hand and whispered, "I'm so sorry, sir. So sorry." It was the first time she truly saw him as a person and not just a patient. He was trapped, aware, suffering, and nobody was helping him. Elena and Elliot developed a way to communicate through looks. She learned to read his eyes. She could see pain, gratitude, anger, and despair just by looking at him. She started doing small kindnesses that Carla had forbidden. An extra blanket when he was cold. Music that he liked playing softly. Opening windows for fresh air. She talked to him like he was human. "How are you today, Mr. Elliot?" she would ask each morning. She read him the news, described the weather, shared stories about her home country. He couldn't respond with words, but his eyes showed appreciation. Those small moments of humanity were all he had. In month 4, Elena witnessed physical abuse for the first time. Carla slapped Elliot hard across the face. "You make me sick," she hissed at him. "Just die already." Elena gasped before she could stop herself. Carla spun around. "You saw nothing," she said, in a voice that was pure threat. "Understand? Nothing." Elena nodded, terrified. That night, she cried in her room and prayed for guidance. She wanted to call the police. She wanted to report what was happening. But her visa status stopped her. "They'll deport me before they arrest her," she thought. "My children back home will starve without the money I send." She felt trapped, just like Elliot. Carla started using food as punishment. "He annoyed me today. No dinner," she would tell Elena. Elena began sneaking food to Elliot when Carla wasn't looking. Crackers, fruit, protein shakes, anything she could give him without getting caught. If Carla caught her, she would be fired. Sometimes Carla checked on whether her orders had been followed. "Did you feed him?" she would ask. Elena learned to lie. "No, ma'am, as instructed." Then she would feed him after Carla left the house. The guilt consumed her. "I'm sorry I must lie to help you," she would whisper to Elliot. "God forgive me." In month 5, a new lover appeared. His name was Destiny West, and he was different from the other lovers. He stayed longer and acted entitled, like he owned the place. This was the ultimate betrayal. Destiny's cruelty was worse than any of the other lovers. He actively taunted Elliot. She mocked his wheelchair, his speech attempts, his complete helplessness. "What's it like being useless?" she asked him once, leaning close to his face. "Bet you wish you died in that accident." Carla laughed and encouraged it. Elena documented every single encounter in her journal. Destiny became a regular presence, visiting 2 or 3 times a week. The house that should have been Elliot's sanctuary had become his prison. By month 6, Elena was falling apart. She couldn't sleep. She was losing weight. She lived in a constant state of anxiety. She went to her priest for guidance in the confession booth. "Father, I witness terrible sin every single day," she told him. "But if I speak up, my children will suffer. I'll be deported, and they depend on my income." The priest was quiet for a long moment. "God sees all," he finally said. "Truth always emerges. Pray for wisdom." It wasn't an easy answer, but there wasn't one. Elena was tormented by what she knew and what she couldn't do about it. By month 7, Destiny West had become Carla's primary partner. He visited 3 or 4 times a week and essentially moved into the house. He redecorated. He moved furniture around. He took over the guest room as his permanent space. He treated the house like it was his. He acted like Elliot didn't exist, walking past him like he was invisible. Destiny and Carla discussed their future plans openly while Elliot sat nearby. They assumed he couldn't understand what they were saying. This was a massive mistake. They talked about vacations they would take, houses they would buy, the life they would live together. "Once he's gone," was a phrase they repeated constantly. Elliot absorbed every word. His memory was sharp despite his physical limitations. Destiny even brought a financial advisor to the house. The 3 of them sat in Elliot's home office discussing his assets like he was already dead. Carla forged a power of attorney and started transferring funds. He opened a joint account with Destiny and moved $1.2 million into it. They planned offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. They discussed Bitcoin investments because they were untraceable. They reviewed Elliot's life insurance policies, which totaled $15 million. "We just have to wait," Carla said. Destiny's response showed her impatience. "How long, though? I'm getting tired of waiting." By month 8, their conversations became openly dangerous. "He's taking too long to die naturally," Destiny complained. Carla agreed. "I know. The accident should have finished him." Then Destiny said the words that changed everything. "So, we help things along." It was the first direct murder planning conversation. Elliot heard every single word. Terror and rage mixed inside him in equal measure. They discussed methods like they were planning a dinner party, suffocation with a pillow. It would look like he died in his sleep. Medication overdose. Too many pain pills could look accidental. Continued starvation until organ failure, which would seem natural given his condition. Drowning in the bathtub. He could slip during a bath, a tragic accident. They analyzed each method for how much police scrutiny it would draw. "It has to be unquestionable," Carla insisted. "We can't risk an investigation." They set a deadline. Destiny wanted him dead by Christmas. "New year, new life," he said. Carla agreed. "Before the year ends. I'm done waiting." They had 3 weeks to plan. They researched methods and created alibis. They even discussed the funeral. "Nothing too expensive," Carla said. "That would be a waste of money." They discussed how to split the estate. 60-40 split. "You're taking more risk," Destiny told Carla. They were dividing money from a man who wasn't even dead yet. A man who was sitting 15 feet away, listening to every word. Elliot's mental state was deteriorating rapidly. 8 months of torture had brought him to the edge of psychological collapse. He had suicidal thoughts constantly. He wished the accident had killed him. He prayed every day for death. "God, please take me," he begged silently. He saw no escape from the nightmare. He was trapped in his body and trapped in this house. Elena was his only friend, but she couldn't save him. His parents visited once a month, but he couldn't communicate the truth to them. Carla's acting was too perfect. They never suspected a thing. When Robert and Margaret visited, Carla transformed completely. Elliot would be dressed in fresh clothes, clean-shaven, and well-fed the day before and during their visits. The house would be spotless because Elena worked double shifts to prepare. Carla would be attentive and loving. "Does that feel better, honey? Let me adjust your pillow for you." Margaret would praise her. "Carla, you're a saint. We're so grateful for you." Robert would add, "Not many wives would do this. You're really special." Carla would give a humble smile. "I love him. That's what marriage means." The moment Robert and Margaret's car pulled out of the driveway, the mask dropped. "Glad that's over," Carla would say. "Your parents are exhausting." Elliot Warren heard them planning his murder. He knew he was going to die, and he knew there was nothing he could do to stop it. The worst part was that he was completely lucid through every moment. His mind was intact. He understood everything. He felt everything. And nobody was coming to save him. 8 months and 2 weeks had passed since the accident that had destroyed his body and trapped his mind. That morning, Elena informed Carla that Elliot's parents were scheduled to visit the next day. It was an annual tradition, an early November visit before Thanksgiving. Carla was immediately tense. "They're coming tomorrow? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Elena looked at her confused. "You said to tell you the day before. Today is the day before." Carla was irritated because the visit meant less time with Destiny. Carla sent Elena out immediately. "Go to the pharmacy. Take your time," she said. Elena left reluctantly with a bad feeling in her stomach. Before she walked out, she watched Carla position Elliot's wheelchair near the master bedroom. "Stay there. Don't move," Carla said with a cruel laugh. It was a joke at his expense, because he couldn't move even if he wanted to. She left him facing the bedroom door. The cruelty was intentional. She wanted him to see and hear everything. Carla and Destiny went into the bedroom and left the door wide open. They were louder than usual, performing for Elliot, making sure he knew exactly what was happening. Between their activities, they talked about tomorrow's visit from his parents. "God, his parents are so naive," Destiny said. Carla laughed. "Margaret thinks I'm Mother Teresa." They mocked his family while Elliot sat helpless 15 feet away. Then the conversation shifted to their plan. "Christmas is 7 weeks away," Destiny said. "Still our deadline?" Carla's response was cold and clear. "Yes. I'm researching methods. Suffocation is the cleanest." They discussed the details like they were planning a vacation. "Make it look like he choked during feeding," Destiny suggested. Carla agreed. "Exactly. Elena will be the one who found him. We'll set her up as the negligent caregiver." Destiny laughed. "Police will blame the help. They always do." Something inside Elliot snapped at that moment. Not mentally, but physically. A massive surge of adrenaline flooded his system. His body's fight-or-flight response activated at levels he had never experienced. The wheelchair began jerking violently. His whole body convulsed. He couldn't control it. Sounds came from his throat, guttural and animal-like. The emotional overload had triggered a physical response that was completely involuntary. The bedroom sounds stopped immediately. "What the hell is that?" Carla asked. Destiny answered casually. "Your husband. He's making noises." Carla stormed out of the bedroom, naked and furious. "Can't you just sit still like the invalid you are?" she screamed at him. Elliot's eyes met hers with pure hatred. Tears were streaming down his face. His body was still convulsing, and he couldn't make it stop. Destiny appeared behind Carla, wrapped in a sheet, looking amused by the situation. "He's such a burden," Carla said. "Can't even be quiet." Destiny shrugged. "Just ignore him. Come back to bed." But Carla looked into Elliot's eyes and saw something that unsettled her. Awareness, rage, recognition. Something was different about the way he was looking at her. She shoved him hard, violently, with both hands. The wheelchair tipped over. Elliot crashed onto the hardwood floor. His head hit with a sickening thud. They both laughed. Carla looked down at him lying on the floor and said, "Now stay down there." Then they went back into the bedroom and closed the door this time. They left him on the floor for 23 minutes. Elliot lay there, his head bleeding from a small cut, his body in pain, his mind racing with rage and desperation. Elena came back early because she had forgotten her wallet at the house. She entered through the garage and saw the overturned wheelchair in the hallway. Elliot was on the ground, motionless, with blood coming from a cut on his head. "Mr. Elliot! Oh God, Mr. Elliot!" she cried out. She heard sounds coming from the bedroom and understood immediately what had happened. For the first time since she started working there, Elena wanted to hurt Carla. She wanted to make her feel pain, but instead, she focused on helping Elliot. She carefully tried to lift him, but the wheelchair was too heavy for her to manage alone. She dragged cushions under him to make him comfortable on the floor. She cleaned the cut on his head. It was superficial but frightening. She held him and whispered, "I'm here. You're not alone, I promise." Elliot's eyes were different. Elena noticed it immediately. His focus was sharper. His awareness seemed heightened. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked. "Blink if yes." He blinked deliberately and clearly. It was the first definite communication he had managed in 8 months. Elena's heart raced. Something had changed. That night, Elena got Elliot back into his wheelchair after Carla and Destiny finally came out of the bedroom. Carla looked at her annoyed. "What are you doing back?" Elena explained calmly. "I found him on the floor." "What happened?" Carla didn't even hesitate with her lie. "He tipped himself over. Clumsy." Elena saw right through the lie but said nothing. She got Elliot to his bed and did a full examination. Bruises were forming on his shoulder and hip. The head cut was minor with no signs of concussion. But something was definitely different. She couldn't identify exactly what, but Elliot kept looking at her with intense, purposeful focus. "Sir, are you trying to tell me something?" she asked. He gave a tiny nod. It was barely there, but it was real. What had happened inside Elliot's brain was extraordinary. The extreme emotional trauma had triggered a massive stress response. Cortisol and adrenaline flooded his system at unprecedented levels. His brain had been injured 8 months ago. Certain pathways were damaged, others had gone dormant. But the brain has an incredible ability called neuroplasticity. It constantly rewires itself, searching for new pathways around damage. Sometimes trauma can trigger dormant areas to suddenly activate. It's similar to stroke victims who suddenly regain function after an emotional event. This is documented in medical literature. It's rare, but it happens. Elliot's frontal lobe had been damaged, affecting his speech and motor planning, but other areas of his brain were intact and capable of compensation. The fight-or-flight response had activated primal survival systems. It released neurotransmitters, specifically something called BDNF, which promotes neural growth and pathway formation. The stress response had effectively shocked his brain into a new configuration. Over the next 3 weeks, Elliot's progress was remarkable. By day 7, all 5 fingers on his right hand could move. He could touch his thumb to his fingertips. He could grip small objects. His left hand started tingling. His right elbow could bend slightly. His speech attempts were still garbled, but more sounds were coming out. Elena heard him trying to form words. She asked, "Are you trying to say thank you?" He gave a strong, definite nod. "You're welcome, sir," she said with tears in her eyes. "You're so welcome." By day 14, both hands were functional at about 40%. He could hold a cup. He could feed himself soft foods. Elena watched in amazement. "This is a miracle," she whispered. He was forming simple words now. Yes. No. Full sentences were still impossible, but the progress was undeniable. He started feeling sensation in the toes of his left foot. It was the first time he had felt anything below his waist in 8 months. By day 21, his right leg could lift 3 inches off the bed. His left leg could bend at the knee. He wasn't walking yet, but muscle activation was definitely present. He could speak in short phrases. "Help. Me. Please. Thank you." And then one day, he said, "Elena." He said her name clearly. She wept. By day 28, with Elena's support, Elliot could stand. His legs were shaky like a toddler learning to walk. He held onto the wheelchair and stood for 30 seconds before sitting back down, exhausted but triumphant. Elena smiled at him. "You're going to walk soon. I know it." His speech was getting clearer. He told her in broken sentences, "Keep secret. Please. She will kill me." Elena nodded. "I know. We wait. We plan. When Carla was gone from the house, Elena and Elliot planned their next move. Elliot could write shakily on a notepad now. He wrote, "Need evidence. Camera." Elena understood. "Security camera?" He nodded. "Hidden. They. Confess. Everything." They ordered wireless cameras online using Elliot's account. 8 units with cloud storage. The shipping was held at the post office so Carla wouldn't see the delivery. Elena picked them up and told Carla she had been running errands. In week 3, Carla almost caught Elena helping Elliot stand in his bedroom. They heard her car and rushed to get him back in the wheelchair. Carla walked in seconds later, suspicious. "What are you doing in here?" Elena lied smoothly. "Changing his sheets." Carla noticed he was sweating. "Was washing him. It gets warm," Elena explained. Carla stared at Elliot. He kept his eyes vacant and drooled slightly. It was a perfect act. Carla lost interest and left. In week 4, Destiny stopped in the hallway and stared at Elliot. "Is it me, or does he look different?" he asked Carla. "More alert. His eyes follow me." Elliot immediately made his eyes vacant, staring at nothing. Carla laughed. "You're paranoid. He's the same vegetable he's always been." Elliot Warren's brain was rewiring itself. His body was refusing to surrender, and Carla had absolutely no idea that her victim was becoming her judge. The first week of December, Carla announced she and Destiny were taking a weekend shopping trip to Miami. "Back, Monday," she said cheerfully. It was the perfect opportunity. Elena and Elliot had 72 hours to install the cameras without being caught. Elliot's mobility had improved dramatically. He could walk with support now. He helped Elena position each camera, directing the placement carefully. "That angle is better," he would say, his speech clearer every day. They placed cameras in strategic locations that covered all the key areas of the house. They tested each one to ensure the audio and video quality was perfect. Elliot even called his former apartment complex manager, a loyal former employee, and asked for help with a security concern. The manager sent a tech specialist who installed everything professionally. Elliot paid extra for his silence. "This stays between us," he told the man. By Sunday night, all cameras were operational. When Carla returned Monday, she noticed nothing. What those cameras captured over the next 4 weeks was damning beyond belief. The very first day of recording, Carla and Destiny were in the bedroom unpacking from their trip. They started discussing murder plans openly, never imagining anyone could hear them. "I researched suffocation," Destiny said casually. "It's peaceful if done right." Carla asked how long it would take. 2 minutes, you just hold the pillow firmly." Carla had a concern. "What about petechiae? Police look for those burst blood vessels." Destiny had an answer ready. "Not if his face is down in the pillow. It looks like a natural sleep position." This conversation lasted 47 minutes, and every single detail was recorded in crystal clear audio. On Tuesday, December 3rd, Destiny brought financial documents into the living room. The laptop screen was visible to the camera. Bank statements showed that Carla had already transferred $1.8 million. There were life insurance policies, 3 of them, totaling $15 million. The beneficiary on all of them was Carla Warren, 100%. They discussed how to divide the money. "I get $9 million, you get $6 million, Carla said. Destiny added, "plus whatever we already moved offshore." Carla smiled. "Almost $4 million offshore. Not bad for a year's work." Thursday, December 5th, brought even more evidence. Carla was in the kitchen researching on her laptop, and the camera angle caught her Google searches perfectly. How long can a disabled person survive without food? Medication overdose in quadriplegics. Legal challenges to suspicious death investigations. How thoroughly do police investigate disabled deaths? Can pillow suffocation be detected? Each search was captured with timestamps and full text. She was researching how to murder her husband and get away with it. Friday, December 6th was the smoking gun. Carla and Destiny were in the home office with wine, relaxed, their guards completely down. They started reminiscing. Can't believe it's been almost 9 months, Destiny said. Carla agreed. I know. Longest year of my life. Then Destiny said the words that would seal their fate. Remember when we thought the accident would finish him? Carla laughed. God, we were so naive. Destiny continued. Your planning was perfect, though. Cutting the brake line. Carla's response was chilling. I researched for weeks, watched YouTube videos on how to do it. They discussed the timing of the original accident. The timing was brilliant, Destiny said. Morning of your business trip. Carla explained her alibi. Had to be when I had an alibi. I made sure the hotel cameras caught me at breakfast. Destiny seemed impressed. Who knew he'd actually survive? Carla's voice was bitter. The doctor said 20% chance. Should have been 0. They agreed that at least they got him out of commission, but it wasn't enough. He's still breathing, still draining money, Carla complained. So we finish what we started, Destiny said. Then they set the exact date. 3 weeks. December 27th. Destiny asked why that specific date. Carla had thought it through completely. Day after Christmas. His parents will have just visited and won't be back until New Year. Elena has that day off. I'll be alone with him. Christmas night. I'll give him extra sleeping pills so he's groggy the morning of the 27th. When Elena leaves in the morning, I'll do it. Pillow over his face. When she returns in the afternoon, I'll be hysterical. I'll say I left him to nap, and he stopped breathing. Destiny asked about an autopsy. Carla had an answer. They don't do autopsies on disabled people who die at home with witnesses. His doctor will sign the death certificate. Respiratory failure. Expected complication. Destiny was impressed. You've really thought this through. Carla's final words were cold. 9 months of thinking. I'm done waiting. It was a full confession of premeditation, method, timeline, and motive, recorded in 4K video with crystal clear audio. The cameras kept recording. On December 14th, they captured Carla entering Elliot's bedroom at night, carrying a pillow. She stood over him for 5 minutes. She held the pillow and tested its weight. She positioned it over his face, but didn't press down. Just practicing, she whispered to herself. Want to get it right. When Elena reviewed this footage, she was terrified. This is attempted murder. We should call the police right now. But Elliot insisted they wait. Not yet. Need confession with date. He wanted them caught with no possible way to escape. On December 18th, Carla told Elena she would have December 27th off. Take the day. You deserve a break. Elena asked who would care for Elliot. I'll manage one day. I'm his wife, Carla said sweetly. But the cameras caught her face when Elena turned away. Her smile was cold and calculated. Destiny was watching from the doorway and nodded approvingly. They were setting up their timeline perfectly. December 20th through 22 brought Elliot's parents and the twins for a Christmas visit. Elliot hadn't seen his daughters in months. When Emma and Lily walked in, he cried. They were so much bigger. They were nervous and barely remembered their daddy. Margaret encouraged them. Go give Daddy a hug. The girls approached slowly and hugged him carefully. Hi, Daddy. We missed you. Elliot's tears were a mix of joy and sorrow. He wanted desperately to speak to them, to tell them everything, but he couldn't reveal his recovery yet. He was just days away from exposing Carla, and he had to wait. Carla's performance during the visit was perfect. She baked cookies with the girls. She fussed over Elliot. Let me get you more comfortable, honey. His parents had no idea that the truth was hiding in cloud storage, waiting to destroy the woman they thought was a saint. On December 26th, just hours after Elliot's parents drove away, Carla and Destiny had their final conversation before the planned murder. They're gone? Destiny asked. Finally, now we can focus, Carla replied. Destiny asked if she was ready for tomorrow. Carla's answer was shocking. More than ready. I'm excited. Destiny seemed surprised. "Really?" Carla explained. "He's made my life hell for 9 months. I'll enjoy ending his." They laughed together and clinked wine glasses. To tomorrow, to freedom. Pure evil was caught on camera. In total, the cameras captured 847 hours of footage across 4 weeks. There were 156 separate instances of abuse documented with timestamps. 47 conversations explicitly planning murder. 12 conversations confessing to the original accident sabotage. Financial documents showing $4.2 million already stolen. Insurance fraud fully detailed. Multiple sexual encounters proving infidelity. 2 participants in a clear conspiracy. Everything was uploaded automatically to password-protected cloud storage backed up on 3 separate servers. It was a permanent record that could never be deleted. On December 23rd, Elena used her day off to visit attorney Michael Richardson with Elliot's instructions. She brought a tablet and showed him sample footage. He watched the original accident confession. He watched the murder planning conversation. He sat in complete silence for 30 seconds, processing what he had just seen. "This is the most documented attempted murder case I've ever seen," he finally said. When Elena explained that Elliot had secretly recovered and installed the cameras himself, the lawyer was stunned. "He's conscious, mobile, and still playing disabled to catch them?" Elena confirmed everything. Richardson was clear about the danger. "They plan to kill him in 4 days. We need police involved immediately." The legal strategy came together quickly. The charges would include attempted murder for both the accident and the planned suffocation, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, financial exploitation, elder abuse, and abuse of a vulnerable adult. The original accident case would be reopened based on the confessions, but December 27th was too dangerous to wait. They moved the confrontation up to December 23rd, that very evening. Elliot's parents would be called back. Police would be coordinated. Warrants would be prepared. Everything would be ready. That evening, Elliot practiced walking. He could move unassisted now. His speech was 85% recovered. He selected a suit, dress shoes, and a tie. It was symbolic, reclaiming the identity that had been taken from him. Elena helped him dress. "You look like yourself again, Mr. Elliot." He smiled. "Almost. Not quite yet. Tomorrow I'll be myself again." Then Elliot called his parents. Elena held the phone. He managed 3 clear words. "Please, come. Tonight." Margaret gasped on the other end. "Robert, he spoke. Elliot spoke." They were on their way immediately, driving as fast as they could. Carla was out shopping with Destiny, completely unaware. Police units were dispatched and waiting nearby. Everything was in place. Justice was just hours away. They had planned his death down to the minute. He had planned their exposure down to the second. The difference between victim and victor? Patience and preparation. Carla thought she had won. She thought she had gotten away with attempted murder and was about to finish the job. She had no idea that every word she had spoken for the past 4 weeks was recorded. She had no idea her victim had healed. She had no idea that in a few short hours, her entire world would come crashing down. The trap was set, and there was no escape. December 23rd, 2019. The day had finally arrived. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Elena positioned an empty wheelchair in the hallway as a decoy. In the back bedroom, Elliot Warren was standing and getting dressed for the first time in 9 months as a free man. He put on his navy suit, the one he used to wear to board meetings. Elena helped him with his white silk tie, a gift from his mother on his last birthday. His hands were still slightly shaky, but he could do most of it himself now. "Are you sure you can stand that long?" Elena asked with concern. Elliot's response was firm. "I don't care if I collapse after they're in handcuffs." Elena combed his hair and stepped back. He looked in the mirror and saw himself for the first time in 9 months. Not the broken man in the wheelchair, the man he used to be. Not quite the same, but close enough. Before moving on, a quick thank you to everyone watching and supporting this channel. Your presence truly keeps it alive. This community continues to grow because of people who believe in real, meaningful storytelling. Becoming a channel member unlocks exclusive extras, behind-the-scenes content, and directly helps us bring more powerful true stories to light. Your support makes a real difference, and we'd love to know who's here. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. If you're still tuned in right now, write "I'm still here" in the comments. Let's see who's watching till the end. Don't forget to like this video too. Now let's continue. At the same time, Robert and Margaret were driving frantically toward the house. They had left at 4:30 and had 90 minutes of driving ahead of them. Margaret was on the phone with Elliot's doctor, her voice confused and hopeful. He spoke clearly, multiple words, she insisted. The doctor was skeptical. "Mrs. Warren, that's not possible with his injuries." Margaret was certain of what she heard. "I heard him. 3 words." The doctor admitted he would need to examine Elliot because this would be unprecedented. Robert suggested maybe Elliot had been improving gradually. Then Margaret asked the question that planted the first seed of doubt in her mind. Why wouldn't Carla tell us if he was improving? 3 blocks away, 4 unmarked police cars were parked and waiting. Detective Lionel led the operation with 2 other detectives and 4 patrol officers as backup. The warrants had been prepared and signed by a judge that afternoon. The charges included attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, financial exploitation, and abuse of a vulnerable adult. The lawyer had submitted a 400-page brief with links to all the video evidence. The judge had reviewed it and called it chilling and definitive. The plan was to arrive at 7:15, wait for Elena's text signal, and enter when the family confrontation began. They would arrest both women with minimal force but maximum impact. While police prepared and Elliot's parents rushed to save him, Carla and Destiny were at an expensive restaurant celebrating early. Carla paid with Elliot's credit card without hesitation. When the waiter asked if it was a special occasion, Carla smiled. "You could say that. Early New Year's celebration." They toasted to freedom, to money, and to each other. They discussed what they would buy after Elliot was dead. Destiny wanted a Porsche. Carla wanted a full body lift to get rid of her pregnancy weight. There was no guilt, only anticipation. They finished dinner at 6:47 and headed home. "Being home with him is so depressing," Carla said. Destiny agreed. "Not for much longer." At 6:52, Robert's car pulled into the driveway. Elena was waiting and opened the door immediately. "Mr. and Mrs. Warren, thank you for coming." Margaret rushed past her. "Where's Elliot? Is he okay?" Elena's voice had a strange mix of excitement and tension. "Better than okay. Please come to the living room." They followed her and saw the empty wheelchair. Margaret's heart dropped. "Where is he? Where's my son?" Elena asked them to sit. "He'll be here shortly." Robert demanded to know what was going on. Elena's answer was simple. "Mr. Elliot wants to tell you himself." Margaret's voice rose. "Tell us what?" Elena smiled. "Everything." At 7:03 they heard footsteps, coming from the hallway. Margaret stood up. "Who's that?" Elena's smile grew wider. "That's Mr. Elliot." The door opened and Elliot Warren walked in. He was walking without help, upright and strong, dressed in a suit. Margaret screamed and put her hand over her mouth. Robert froze, unable to process what he was seeing. "Elliot," his father whispered. Elliot's voice was clear and strong. "Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad." It was a full sentence with perfect pronunciation. Margaret collapsed into her chair. "Oh my God. Oh my God." Robert couldn't understand. "How? The doctor said you'd never walk again." Elliot walked to the couch and sat down like it was the most natural thing in the world. "It's a long story, and you need to hear all of it." He told them he had been recovering for 6 weeks. Margaret asked why he didn't tell them. "Because I needed time, and I needed evidence." Evidence of what Carla had done and what she was planning to do. Then Elliot pulled out a tablet and started showing them the truth. He played audio of Carla confessing to cutting his brake lines. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth as tears started. He played more recordings with details of the sabotage, the timeline, the planning. Robert's face turned red with rage. "That evil woman. he said through clenched teeth. Elliot's voice was calm. There's more. So much more. He showed them a video compilation of the abuse. Carla starving him with dates and times displayed. Verbal abuse where she told him he should have died. Neglect where she left him in soiled clothes for hours. Physical violence, slapping and shoving. Margaret sobbed. We were here. How did we not see this? Elliot explained that Carla had performed for them. She was St. Carla during visits, then the mask dropped the moment they left. He showed them the transformation on video. Robert was shaking with rage. I'll kill her myself. Elliot stopped him. No, the law will handle this. Finally, he played the December 27th murder plan, the full conversation about suffocation. The timeline that was just 4 days away, Elena's forced day off to isolate him, Carla's excited voice saying she would enjoy ending his life. Margaret had a complete breakdown, sobbing uncontrollably. Robert paced with his fists clenched, trembling with rage. Where is she? Where is that monster? Elliot told them she would be home soon, and when she walked through that door, it would be over. The police were waiting. He had called them hours ago. At 7:15, headlights appeared in the driveway. Elena sent a text to police. They're here. Carla and Destiny came in through the garage, laughing and carrying shopping bags. They walked toward the living room, still laughing about something. Then they stopped cold in the doorway. Robert and Margaret were sitting on the couch with faces like stone. Carla's smile dropped instantly. Oh, you didn't tell me you were coming back. Her voice was high and nervous. Margaret didn't respond, just stared at her. Carla asked if everything was okay. Destiny sensed the tension and tried to leave. Robert's voice was like ice. Where do you think you're going? Destiny stammered that he should give them privacy. You should stay, Robert said. This concerns you too. Margaret stood up slowly and walked toward Carla. What's wrong? What's wrong? Her voice was rising. You evil, disgusting, vile woman. Carla backed up. I don't understand. Margaret cut her off. Don't you dare lie to me. Not anymore. We know everything. Carla's eyes darted around. Know what? Robert answered for his wife. The accident. The affairs. The abuse. The murder plot. Carla's face drained of all color. That's insane, she whispered. Margaret closed the distance between them. You tortured my son. Carla tried to speak. I don't know what he told you, but... Margaret slapped her hard across the face. The sound echoed through the room. Carla stumbled back with her hand on her cheek, shocked. She raised her own hand to retaliate, but froze. Something had caught her eye. From the hallway behind his parents, Elliot walked out. His footsteps were steady and strong. He stepped into the light. Carla's eyes widened impossibly wide. You. Elliot walked forward and stood tall. Destiny gasped and grabbed Carla's arm. Carla whispered in disbelief. You can walk? Elliot's voice was clear and undeniable. For 6 weeks now. Carla stammered that it was impossible. Elliot smiled without humor. Funny, that's what you said about me surviving the accident. Yet here I am, walking, talking, and remembering everything. Carla tried to explain, but Elliot cut her off. He listed everything she had done, cut his brake lines, starved him, abused him, humiliated him, planned to suffocate him on December 27th. Destiny asked Carla how he knew. Elliot pulled out his phone and played audio, Carla's voice confessing to cutting brake lines, her voice discussing suffocation methods, her voice saying she would enjoy ending his life. Carla's legs gave out and she grabbed the doorframe for support. You recorded us? Elliot told her about the 8 cameras, 4 weeks of footage, 847 hours total. Every affair, every abuse, every murder plan. All saved, all backed up, all admissible in court. Carla fell to her knees. Elliot, please. I'm sorry. Elliot asked if she was sorry she did it or sorry she got caught. She tried to explain she was overwhelmed and couldn't handle caring for a disabled husband. So you tried to kill me twice? Elliot asked. Margaret shouted that they had heard the tape of her planning his murder. Carla switched tactics and said Elliot was lying and manipulating them. But Robert told her they had seen the video and heard her voice. Then Carla's rage broke through. "You bastard! You were supposed to die. The accident should have killed you." Her true feelings finally came out. She admitted she had to take care of him, feed him, look at him. "You were supposed to be dead already." Destiny tried to walk toward the door. Elliot stopped him. "Going somewhere?" He said this was between him and Carla. "No, you're not going anywhere," Elliot said. He raised his hand as a signal. The front door opened. Detective Lionel entered with 3 officers. "Nobody move." Carla spun around and screamed when she saw police. The detective announced they were under arrest. Carla insisted she hadn't done anything. The detective listed the charges: attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, financial exploitation, and abuse of a vulnerable adult. Officers approached with handcuffs. Destiny put his hands up and asked for his lawyer. Carla lunged at Elliot, screaming that he had set her up. Officers grabbed and restrained her while she fought and thrashed. "This is entrapment," she screamed. The detective's response was simple. "No, ma'am, it's justice." Carla kept screaming that she was his wife and had been caring for him. Elliot stepped closer with a calm voice. "You want to know the worst part? I would have forgiven the accident. I would have worked through the disability. But you didn't just hurt me. You enjoyed it." He leaned close. "There they are, officers. Arrest them." Officers led them to separate cars. Carla was hysterical, screaming that he was supposed to die and everything was perfect until he ruined it. Destiny was silent and cold, giving Elliot one look of pure hatred. The cars drove away. Neighbors stood on their lawns watching. News vans had somehow already arrived. Elliot ignored the shouted questions and turned back inside. 9 months of torture. 6 weeks of planning. 1 perfect moment of revelation. Carla thought she would be a widow by New Year's. Instead, she became an inmate by Christmas. Justice had been delivered. The arrests on December 23, 2019, were just the beginning. Police immediately seized all electronic devices from the house. The 8 cameras were confiscated as evidence. Cloud storage accounts were subpoenaed and preserved. A forensic team began the massive task of reviewing 847 hours of footage. Their priority was finding the murder confession and the original accident confession. Banks cooperated fully with investigators, and $4.2 million was traced through offshore accounts. Digital forensics experts examined Carla's computer and found a search history that was absolutely damning. Her browsing data showed extensive research on murder methods. Email accounts revealed constant communication with Destiny. Thousands of text messages were recovered, including deleted ones. Phone records showed 47 calls between Carla and Destiny on the day of the accident alone. Detective Lionel reopened the original accident case file with new urgency. He led a team back to the original crash site. The brake line was still sitting in an evidence locker, and this time 3 independent forensic specialists examined it. Their conclusion was unanimous: deliberate sabotage. The tool marks matched perfectly to tools found in Carla's vehicle. Security footage from the parking garage was reviewed with new focus. Investigators found Carla's morning visit at 6:47 a.m. on the day of the accident. Enhanced video showed her carrying a bag, spending 11 minutes under Elliot's car, then emerging without the bag. Cell tower data placed Carla at Elliot's office building that morning. Her hotel alibi was checked, and she had checked in at 4 p.m., hours after the sabotage. The timeline proved both opportunity and premeditation beyond any doubt. Pre-trial proceedings stretched from January through July 2020. Both Carla and Destiny requested bail. The prosecution argued that Carla was a significant flight risk, pointing to offshore accounts and a recovered text message that said, "After he's dead, we go to Spain." The judge denied bail, stating that the defendant posed a significant flight risk and danger to witnesses. The trial began in August 2020. Jury selection took 2 weeks. The final jury consisted of 7 women and 5 men, ages 28 to 67, with diverse backgrounds including teachers, engineers, and a retired police officer. The jury deliberated for just 6 hours and 14 minutes. On every single count, the verdict was guilty. Carla collapsed forward, sobbing. Destiny remained stone-faced. Elliot held his mother's hand and cried quiet tears of relief. The courtroom erupted in applause. At the sentencing hearing on October 2, 2020, Elliot stood before the judge. "Your Honor, these people tried to erase me. They failed, but not without leaving scars. I ask for the maximum sentence, not for revenge, but for protection. These women are dangerous. Keep them locked away." The judge sentenced both Carla and Destiny to 80 years in state prison. Carla would be eligible for parole at age 98. Justice had been served completely, and finally, life after the trial was not easy, but it was forward motion. Elliot continued physical therapy 3 times a week. The situation with his daughters was delicate. They were shielded from the graphic details and told in age-appropriate terms that mommy made bad choices and hurt daddy. Carla's parental rights were terminated by the court. Elliot gained sole custody. The girls stayed with their grandparents initially for stability, but eventually moved back with their father in 2022 into a new house with no traumatic memories. Rebuilding the father-daughter bond took time. Family counseling and play therapy helped. By age 9, Emma and Lily called him Daddy without hesitation. They were secure, loved, and healing. When they asked about Carla, Elliot answered honestly but gently. "Sometimes people make very bad choices, but that's not your fault. You did nothing wrong." Elena's life transformed completely. After the trial, Elliot hired an immigration attorney to help her gain citizenship. In 2021, Elena became a United States citizen. Dating was terrifying for Elliot. His first attempt in 2022 ended with a panic attack. It took another year of trauma work before he was ready to try again. In 2023, he met Dr. Sarah at a medical conference where he was speaking. She was a trauma therapist who understood his fear without him having to explain. They talked for 4 hours over coffee. The connection felt natural, easy, and safe. The case forced people to examine uncomfortable truths about human nature and vulnerability. Dr. Robert Hare, a psychopathy researcher, studied Carla's case and declared her a textbook narcissistic sociopath. She displayed superficial charm that fooled everyone initially. She had a grandiose sense of self-worth and believed she deserved wealth. She was a pathological liar. She showed a lack of remorse even after conviction. She had shallow affect and couldn't feel real love. She lived a parasitic lifestyle off Elliot. She displayed callousness and could torture without guilt. In retrospect, Elliot admitted he had missed every red flag. "I thought love meant overlooking flaws," Elliot reflected. "I was wrong. Real love doesn't require blindness." His message to others in abusive situations is direct and hopeful. If you're in an abusive situation, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You deserve better. There is escape. Document everything. Tell someone safe. Fight for yourself. I did. You can too. When asked if he forgives Carla, Elliot's answer has evolved. In 2025, his answer is nuanced. "Forgiveness is complicated. I forgive for my peace, not her comfort. I release the hate because it was poisoning me. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. She's where she belongs. I'm where I belong. That's enough." Elliot Warren was supposed to die twice. Instead, he lived twice. The first life was stolen by betrayal. The second life was earned through courage. If Elliot Warren's story taught us anything, it's that evil hides in plain sight and justice demands courage. If this story moved you, if it shocked you, if it reminded you that truth is more powerful than any lie, then we need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that subscribe button. We bring you real crime stories with real investigations and real justice every single week. These aren't just stories. They're lessons about survival, courage, and the power of never giving up. Second, smash that like button if you believe survivors deserve justice, and the truth should always come to light. Third, Share this video. Carla Warren wanted her crimes buried forever. Instead, millions now know exactly what she did. That's the power of truth. Drop a comment below and tell us what moment shocked you most. What would you have done in Elliot's position? New investigations drop every week. The next case is even darker than this one. Until then, remember what Elliot proved. You are stronger than your circumstances, and the truth, when given time and courage, always wins. Stay strong and never stop fighting for what's right.